It's Corso and Catone.
Listen, Mark, hold on. When I say, would you have caffeine today?
What the hell is that up to?
Presented by Special Sauce Podcast, Studio 42 Design, and Corso Law Group. Now for the real deal New England feel, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe is with us in the booth, and you're joining us, watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, or hey, wherever you podcast. And if you want to listen to us live while we're doing this, you could do that on Podbean. And hey, give us a call. Heated Hotline. They're all coming back now. We got a lot of them coming in now, Mark. Some of them pretty good. Joe tells me this week is a good one that I'm particularly going to like it. So I don't know what that means, but we'll see what happens. So 855-313-PATS. Leave a message 24/7. Anything's on the table. We'll be ready. So 855-313-7287. Guys, we really got a packed show today. In Weekly Rewind, we're going to go back into the NFL playoffs, look at those championship games, break some of those down, Mark's got some pretty interesting takes on that. So stay tuned for that. And we'll also have our Sunday spread, our final NFL one, where we'll give you our lock of the week for the Super Bowl. And, of course, Catone's comments. You never want to miss that. That's, I laugh every time, Mark. So Catone's comments, stick around for that. And, of course, some B's and C's. We'll talk Bruins and Celtics as they make their way to the All-Star breaks. But, hey, guys, Joe, Mark, before we get to Weekly Rewind, we want to say goodbye to a legend today.
What? I'm not going anywhere. Wait, who are you saying goodbye to? I'm not going anywhere. The legend's right here. What?
Joe.
You know, I'm not really concerned with next year. I'm not concerned with next week. I'm concerned with today. And if I put myself in a position today to do well, then when the time is ready for me to play, I'm going to be ready to play.
Tom Brady's in the game. Showed some great poise in preseason. Let's see if it carries over to the season.
He said, "Hi, Mr. Kraft. I want to introduce myself. I'm Tom Brady, and I'm the best decision this organization has ever made."
You're going to get this one. I promise. I promise that.
Touchdown, Tom Brady. Patriots.
Here are the American Football Conference champions.
I'll tell you what Tom Brady just did gives me goosebumps. Super Bowl champions.
Great season. Great way to end it.
Yes, it's a dynasty.
We are not finished. We are not finished, fellas.
Touchdown. Tom Brady to Wes Welker. Fires it long and deep right side. Caught. Touchdown. Randy Moss.
Good day to throw. Yeah. Well, no, not all.
Tom Brady to Randy Moss, and they each have set NFL records on the go-ahead touchdown. 65-yard bomb.
A 16-0 regular season record.
Pretty good for a 6th-round draft. It's about honor. It's about respect. We win this game, you're honored.
Throws for Edelman. Touchdown, Patriots. They're back in the lead.
We did it, Josh. Did it.
I love you, man.
Did it, bro. I love you. I love you.
You're the greatest quarterback in the world, man.
They have completed the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history.
We're bringing this sucker home. Let's go!
Tough as any quarterback there is or ever has been. He's done more than any other player at that position, whether it's yards, completions, touchdowns, championships, you name it. Nothing can get tougher than him.
Brady takes the snap. Back 3 steps. He pumps. He looks long. He throws it down the left side for Dorsett, and he makes the catch in the end zone. Touchdown, Patriots!
You're too old! Hey, what more could you want than this, man?
dropping back, lobs a throw for Gronkowski, left side, makes the catch over 2 defenders, tumbling to the 2. Tom Brady, a 6-time champion.
You know, the opportunity to play for such a great organization, a great coach and great coaches, and so many great teammates over so many years. You know, the best team wins, and you know, I've been so fortunate to be on the best team.
When I heard Tommy's announcement, it just made me pause and think. The #1 player in the history of the game played for the New England Patriots.
Man, I'll tell you what. I've seen that video.
Wow.
I don't even know how many times this week, and
Yeah.
every single time it really gets me. Thank you to the New England Patriots organization, Bob Kraft, for putting that out this week, and Joe, thank you for getting it up on the air for our.
Thanks, Joe.
So you didn't see that one. I had to add a little bit of that flavor at the end with the Kraft.
Yeah, the ending.
With Kraft, yeah.
Video altogether,
Yeah.
where he said he was the greatest player.
So Joe, nice job. Thanks for the
Great
mark. I mean, what do you watch that? What do you think of? What do you think about?
My God, right? I mean, Jesus, that was, wow, 20 years, right? Flashed before your eyes. My God. But the thing I think of, Chris, when I think of Brady, right? And you know, people made such a big deal out of Michael Jordan, and they used to say, you know, he would compete. He would bet you the size of a pencil that he had was bigger than yours, right? He was just so competitive, right? But Brady, what people don't talk about enough, is just as competitive, and he's a nut, and he just wants to succeed. The fact that he was the 199th pick in the draft, right? I mean, 2 things, Chris, when you talk about competitiveness, right? 2 things I remember, right, is the Pittsburgh game in Foxborough, when the cornerback Clark was running his mouth all week, right, about Brady. You know, I'm going to shut him down, and Brady, I think when we were at the 50, and Brady throws the pass down the middle to Hogan for a touchdown, 50-yard touchdown, right? And Brady, he's not Lamar Jackson, right? He's not an athlete. He sprints to the end zone and gets in Clark's face, and he tells him, "You effing suck," right? Right in his face he got. Remember? That's the kind of competitor he was, right? People forget about that. That's what made him, because nobody was like him when it came to that, right? And you know, things like that you remember. And just recent, I mean, the game in Arrowhead, Chris, right? And it's on the video. I mean, the guy's in his 40s. Edelman's busting his balls, telling him, "You're too old, right?
Right, get him going.
And he goes in there, and people forget. Everybody got obsessed with the coin flip, and the Patriots won the coin flip, and they got to change the rules of overtime because Mahomes didn't get the ball. But what people forget, on that drive in overtime, he converted 3 third and 10s. 3. 2 to Gronk, 1 to Edelman. That's unheard of in an overtime game. 3 third and 10s, he converts. He was just a competitor, Chris, like you've never seen. We'll never see again. And it just made him who he was, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and all of those things, you know, you look at all those moments in that video and just you start to think of your own and you kind of relate it, you know, in your own. And we talked a little bit about this last week, what the Patriots mean to us, you know, personally. And you start to think about how it affects you personally and what you, you know, what it meant to you, your family, friends, whatever. And it provided so much joy and happiness to us throughout the years. When before that, it was so bad. It was so, you know, tenuous. The were they going to move all that stuff like we talked about last week? And this guy comes along and just took it to a level we'll never. It's stupid numbers. It's just stupid numbers. And I'm going to go through them in a second. But for me, I'm with you. The competitive nature of this guy. And by the way, Clark shared that story. Shared that video this
did
week.
He share it?
I saw that, but he didn't see not the end, not the last part when Brady went up to him. But he admitted, he says, yeah, he got me, you know. But to me, it was in that Atlanta. It was in Atlanta. There was so many, but that Atlanta Super Bowl, not so much a play, but the way he conducted himself and behaved on the sideline. You know, there's a lot of people, a lot of players that would just duck their heads, you know, and say, you know, this thing's pretty much over. This dude was walking up and down the sideline. You see the video of him saying, laser focus, because that whole bench with heads were down, and he wouldn't let it. He would not allow them to lose that game. He just wouldn't do it. And to me, that's Tom Brady. And I know he's gotten commercialized and all that over the years, but he's always seemed to be a good person, a good father, you know, just to seem to be a good human being. And that's the part of it too that Pioli talked about this week, you know, is knowing him off the field with his kids and the way he acts. And you see his daughter in that clip saying, this is the best year of my life, Daddy. You know, that's Tom Brady. We'll never see him again. But Mark,
even if he wasn't, even if he was a real piece of shit, we find out later on, he played it off really. He did it really well. He was a class act, and he presented himself as a class act always. And it's like, you know, it's almost to the point where you're like, come on, Tom, really, you know, Mr. Goody Two Shoes. But like,
are you this good?
Are you really this good? Behind closed doors, you're doing, you know. But he didn't, and it's like it's out there for everybody to see. And it's like that's the part I go, listen, this guy, he's right there. It is what it is, you know.
Because you're never going to hear it, Mark.
No, and I think Kraft touched on that a little bit in his speech, right? That monologue he gave about him, and Joe took a bit of it and put it at the end of the video. But in his he kind of talked about that personal side, like you said, Chris, that Pioli said off of the field, and touched on that too, about how, you know, he became like a son to me, you know, and which so and like Joe said, you know, whether he was or he wasn't, but all accounts make it seem like he was that, you know, genuine type of a guy off of the field as well, you know?
Yeah. And it's just, and look, you go through some of the numbers. I mean, you look at on the field, this on the field performance. So just give me look. So the end of his career, these are all-time leaders in all these numbers that we're talking about. 89,000 yards, 214. I don't want to short him any because he wouldn't allow that. Touchdown passes, 649 in the regular season. Holds the record for the most pass attempts at 12,050 and completions at 7,753, Mark. He most wins, 251. Okay. He's been to 15 Pro Bowls. All right. And you know, that number, I thought that was a little low. I thought it was too. But I think earlier in his career, he didn't have as many. Because
the first couple of years, right?
Deal.
Yeah. And then he had the year where he was injured. He didn't play, right?
Yeah. But I say like from 07 on, I don't think he, you know, that's probably he got most of them. But 7 Super Bowl titles. Again, stupid numbers that you can't even, you know, he has more Super Bowl wins than any other NFL team. Okay. More him. All right. Holds the records for most appearances in Super Bowl with 10. Most postseason wins with 35. Okay. He's got finishes career with most passing yards, and I think this is combined of 102,614 yards and 737 passing touchdowns. So in his you know, Mark, and those are his numbers. But what he create, I mean, we'll comment on that because.
So the numbers, Chris, are stupid because just the longevity of playing as long as he did, no one's ever going to break some of those records just because no one's ever going to play long enough to break those records. No quarterback is going to play long enough to break some of those records. It's impossible.
The thing about it, though, that you love is that he did it. You know, you look at some of these other players like Manning threw the 55 that one year. You know, Brady hit 50 touchdowns. Brady did these things with nobody. most of the time.
Most
of the time. And then when you gave him somebody, he threw 50 touchdowns. He went 18-1. You know, we get upset about that. Yeah, but Mark, 16-0 regular season. 18-1. Nobody's going to do that again.
But Chris, listen, in that Super Bowl, as tough as the Giants played us in that Super Bowl, and I still believe if we didn't have to play them in the regular season, and that was the first time the Giants saw us on a field, we would have blew them out. But anyway, but as tough as they played us, Chris, he takes you down the field and hits Morse.
Yep, put you
to
up by 4.
Take the lead with 2 minutes to go. As bad as the game was, he put you in position to win. Asante Samuel can't, a tailor-made interception. He can't catch the goddamn ball.
You know,
that's because you were in the stadium. You were in the stadium. I'm going to shut up now.
This close, Mark, hitting that. That
and then
Rodney
you got
Harrison
the
getting
goddamn
that
helmet
ball down.
catch on the same.
That's what I mean.
The
This
same
close
drive
it came to hitting the ground. You know, that close. And so, yeah, I mean, stupid number. And what he provided to the team and contributed to 21 wins in a row. Like I said, 18-1. Just it goes on and on and on with the Patriots for the numbers. Stupid numbers that no team will have that kind of run ever again. And so again, our obviously our hats off to Tom Brady, truly a legend. And I mean, what else can you say, Mark? You know, what else can you say? But thank you very much. Thank you for all the years. Thank you for all the memories. Thank you for bringing families together and the community together. And you know, I can't wait till he gets that red jacket. I know he's going to get the gold, but I can't wait till he gets the red jacket. And I can't wait for the first time he's calling a game for Fox in Gillette.
I don't. You think that'll really happen? I don't even know if he'll ever do it.
Oh, he'll do it. $30 million? He's not. You know, he ain't walking away from that. He ain't walking away from that. You know.
I'll tell you what, Kraft should re-sign him and give him the clipboard and tell Bill to take a hike because he could do it. He could step into place and be the head coach. I think.
So, Mark, listen, his retirement. You know, do you think it was? I mean, obviously, everybody's asking, is it good? Is it for good? It is. I mean, you know, he's not going to do this.
No, it's
he's not going to pull a Brett Favre.
He even makes it a point to say this is for good this time. Like he's not coming back.
Yeah. And so do you think it's more of a matter that somebody didn't, because I mean, free agency hasn't started yet. So, but you know, they threw the grapevine. Did he get wind that somebody's just not going to step up and give him money, or this was just his, hey, you know, that's enough? Why did he retire right now?
I think, Chris, it was just him saying, hey, this is enough. I mean, first of all, Chris, he always said I was going to play the last 45. He's 45. Never said I was playing the 50.
He's 46 right now, isn't he?
He's 46. But he did what he said he was going to do.
No,
he did it.
45.
He completed it. Right? He did it. I'm going to play until I'm 45. That was always his goal, and he did it. So I don't think it's because, listen, you don't think, people honestly don't think San Fran would have made an attempt after they've gotten so damn close. The kid Purdy looks like he's going to be out for a while. So you don't think you could let the kid Smith sit for one more year and say, okay, Tommy, when is the Super Bowl? Let him learn how to be a professional quarterback.
Yeah.
But
was that the team who said this week? Did they say they were out on him? Who said that?
Well, they basically said, they're going to go with the kid. They're all set at quarterback.
Oh, no, it was Tua. It was
Tua.
Miami.
They basically said they're going with Tua. And maybe that's the only place he might have gone, Chris, because his family's there. And I really don't think because of the divorce, they said they don't know if he really would have went cross country to Vegas or to San Fran because his family's in, Southern Florida now, But
he said, he still had something left in the tank. There's no question in my mind. You put him in San Fran. You put him in San Fran with that talent, he wins 2. The next 2 are there.
Yeah, maybe 2.
I
don't know about 2, but he wins 1.
Oh,
I think.
I do. You keep that collection together with no injuries and that defense 2. There's nobody better. There's no one better in the league. I mean, they should have been. Who knows what happens with Purdy? And we'll get to that in a second. But hey, listen, Tom, thank you again. We say goodbye to a legend. Joe, what do we title? Greatest of all Tom. Greatest title, Joe, for the show this week because it's completely apropos. So listen, I know, Joe, you want to get the heated hotline. I'm seeing the message right now. So let's get to that right now, Joe. If you're ready, let's do it.
Hey there, guys. This is Chad calling from the great state of Kansas. I just want to say, big fan of the show. I try to listen to it whenever I get a chance. But just want to call about Tom Brady, retired today. I just wanted to, say, congratulations, obviously, but I always thought he was the best, definitely the best of all time, in my opinion. Definitely didn't want him to leave. That was hard to see. Thought if he stayed, probably could have won another Super Bowl or two. And now, I hear you guys kind of saying echoing the same sentiments, but Corso, wasn't it a couple of years, 2-3 years ago? I'm pretty sure you were trying to buy his bus ticket out of town. So I'm not sure, which one is it? Do you want him out? Do you not want him out? What's going on there? But I just want to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, we're going to take thanks, Chad. Thanks, Chad,
for that very insightful calling.
First of all, okay.
No, first of all, you were one of those in Bill we trust. Yeah. So Chad's 100% right with you. You get him out of town. He's washed up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I was in the Mark, Chad, and anyone else out there. Yeah, because I was in the unique position by myself to be saying, hey, look, he's 43 years old. He behaved for as much as we love Tom. And now here we go. This is the real deal New England feel. Here it comes. For as much as we love them, in 2019, he behaved he was down. He behaved poorly. The relationship looked like it was killed. At that point, that's when I said, hey, you know what? We got to move on from him. Who the hell? You're going to tell me everyone out there knew, 43 years old, he's just going to keep doing it with what he did in 2019 with how he looked. Because, he was pissed off. He had nothing around him. I get that, okay? But he's had nothing around him before, and he elevated Branch and Givens and Bethel Johnson and Thompson and Dobson, all these idiots that played that they wanted to poorly draft. And he raised the level of play for those guys. Okay. And so at the time, you know what, Chad? Talk about popping the butt. Good, nice job, Joe. Who the hell decided to put that on?
Well, we got to give it the real.
Listen.
But Chad brings up a good point. Mark, I want to hear from you. Go back a little bit to the breakup.
Right. Yeah.
Go back to the breakup between Tom and the Patriots.
Yeah, and what about?
Well, I mean, go back, let's revisit that. I mean, looking at what happened back then.
All right, so listen. So in 2007, Chris, he wanted a contract extension. 2018, he wants a contract extension. Before 2019 training camp, he wants a contract extension. And then they eventually get the stalemate, and he says, okay, if you're not going to give it to me, then don't franchise me and allow me to become a free agent. Wanted, Chris, was what Drew Brees got. 2 years, $50 million. That was not a lot of money, Chris, at all. No. And he would have stayed here. Okay?
Yeah, he was basically begging for that.
And Kraft's a hypocrite. Kraft's on there today, this week, talking about, we'll bring him back yesterday to retire a Patriot. You had your chance to have him retire a Patriot, and you listened to In Bill We Trust, and you pushed him out the door. So if I was Brady, I'd give him 2 middle fingers. Deuces, I'd give him deuces, and say, I ain't retiring a Patriot. I'm retired. I'll come in for your red jacket ceremony. I'll give you that moment with the fans. Yes, I'm not signing your contract because you had the opportunity to keep me here and win another Super Bowl or probably 2 if you do that. So in 2019, Chris, when you say, he was just, the relationship, it was severed. He was hurt. And he was going through the motions because before that training camp, when they decided he could become a free agent, I think he said, all right, screw you. I'll do what I got to do. I'll fulfill my obligation. I'm getting the hell out of here because after what I gave you, you stuck it to me. But he says he loves. He's a son. He says he's a son to him, but yet he stuck it to his son for the old man, who now we know knew nothing about that position because he let how he goes when he went to Tampa Bay, Chris. I told you he's going to win a ring because he's going to stick it in their ass, and he did. You thought I was crazy.
Hey, look, listen, okay. Hey, I was wrong. But you know what, Chad? Well, watch the other shows. Go back. Anybody out there, go watch our previous shows because I've owned this. More and over that I was wrong. I was dead wrong.
But Chris, that's the relationship. That's what happened because.
But yeah, Mark, in 2017, right? Yeah, 2017, you and I both said it. We wondered, well, you got rid of Garoppolo. Why aren't you extending Brady now? Wasn't that the reason?
That should have been the next step, right?
It didn't make any sense. And so, yeah, we've done that. Hey, look, Chad, we've done this. We've put it on Belichick. We've put it on Kraft. Nobody wants to put it on Kraft, but we've put it on Kraft because you're the owner. The buck stops there. You can overrule Belichick if you want. I mean, he's done it in other situations.
Dollars and cents.
Yeah, because he never had to spend for 20 years.
That little bit that I added to the end of the video with Kraft, when you watch the real video, he takes like so many pauses in between words and such that it sounds like he's had a stroke. And, not to say anything bad toward him, but it's like he's obviously getting really, really old. And it's like, is he not making any good decisions? Or is it, what is it? You know what I mean? Kraft.
Well, he's got the son with him, which, we see how that goes around the league. Kids of owners, that are running teams. You know what I mean? So,
but Joe brings up a good point, Chris. I mean, as he's gotten a little bit older, I think he's relied more and more on Bill's discretion and putting things in Bill's control. Where I think if this was 10 years ago, Chris, I don't think I think Kraft is probably more involved and doesn't allow Bill to make that decision. But I think Joe might be a little bit right there. As he's getting older, I think Bill has got more and more power because Kraft is allowing the football side of things like that, those decisions to be his,
Yeah. Well, look, and I know I want to talk a little bit about, wait, real quick. And then I want to talk about what everyone's saying this week now, looking at the Super Bowl and Mahomes versus Brady. Is Mahomes the next Brady and all this other nonsense? And I know you got a few things to say about that, and we're going to do that right after the break. But before we get to break, is the pressure off the Patriots now that he's now retired?
Well, it makes it easier, right? Makes it easier. There's no more Jesus Christ.
Inherently,
inherently. In other words, whatever team he's on, Jesus Christ, they're 13-3. They're in first place. They look like Super Bowl contenders now. It really makes you look bad. So at least now he's out of the way, right?
Yeah. Well, you had the Buffalo game, right? How bad the Buffalo game was at home when they basically just earlier in the season when they just kind of went into safe mode, and then the next night Brady comes and brings that team back and wins that game. You're not going to have that nonsense anymore. So we want to get into Weekly Rewind coming up next and talk about the Super Bowl matchup, talk about the championship games. And we want to talk about Brady versus Mahomes like everybody else is. We're going to do that right. So, hey, listen, so long, Tom. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Rewind is coming back right after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. CORSO Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CORSOLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. CORSO Law Group.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. And listen, got to get back to those games, the championship games. Look ahead at the Super Bowl. Let's do that in Weekly Rewind. And Joe, let's have it now. I'm getting it. Going back through the week. About a weekly rewind. So, Mark, before we get into the Brady Mahomes thing, let's go back to the championship games. First of all, any surprise with the Philly game?
No.
I mean,
No,
other than the fact that
you and I both said we didn't think it'd be that much of a blowout, but we thought that they would cover the spread. If you listen to our show last week, and and who knows, Chris, if that doesn't happen to Purdy, who knows what that game becomes? Like that game became like basically non-competitive once that happened. Yeah.
And it was a shame. It really was a shame because you wanted to see a good game. Yeah, I mean, they didn't have a quarterback. They didn't have anybody that could throw the ball down the field. So, Philly kind of won that thing with ease. But getting into the other game, okay, Kansas City, Cincinnati. Man, I was so disappointed.
The coach in you was going crazy.
I was so damn I was disappointed on many levels for that day. You know what I mean? Because
just clarify that our Sunday spread, Chris had a big Sunday play. If Cincinnati won, it was awful, ugly. Yeah.
We were all going to Hawaii,
yeah.
We're all going to Hawaii. But I'll tell you what, I mean, look, I was disappointed in Cincinnati. We were ready to anoint them the next team, the best team in football, and thought, they were going to take a run at the end, and it was a disappointing performance. To me, it was. Now, if you want to be an apologist, you would say, okay, they were missing 2 starting linemen, and it showed. It absolutely showed. But more than that, Mark, the coaching on the defensive side of the ball and in the offensive as well, lackluster. I mean, they did not show up in the coaching room at all. What did you see?
Well, Chris, first of all, when I talked to you before the game, you're like, they're gonna get pressure on him. They're gonna keep him in the pocket. They're gonna force him to have to really. They're not gonna allow him to do the things he usually does, and they're gonna make him have to plant and move. And he didn't have to do that. They didn't come up with zero. You thought they'd go to a lot of zero looks, try to get him off his, try to do things with him that would at least force him to have to see, hey, how is that ankle? And they didn't really do that, Chris, until maybe late third quarter, early fourth quarter. You saw him have to plant and move on that thing, and he started limping around. If they did that right out of the gate, Chris, he may not make it 4 quarters in that game.
That defense played scared, at least from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
They played like, not to let him kill them. They played as if he was on a perfect ankle, no issues at all. Like he still had Tyreek Hill.
Most of the game, what were they in? What were they playing most of that game? Because I know it escapes me, but I know you brought it up Sunday as we were watching it.
Yeah, I mean, they ran some of that cover 2 shell, a little bit of disguise. I didn't see them running a ton of man and really bringing the heat. They dropped out a lot. And I thought they could have played more man, or at least cover 1, at least put a safety over the top to protect you on a couple of guys. And honestly, to not take, because when I look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Hardman played for a minute and then he was out. He's not even going to play in the Super Bowl. So what you had left, you allowed Scandling and Juju Smith-Schuster, who's not what he was, and Kelsey. How is it you're not your number 1 takeaway? We're going to take this guy away. We're not going to allow Kelsey to beat us. And it was shocking to me how there wasn't over-under coverage on him all day long. It just wasn't.
Yeah. He threw that one touchdown to him, Chris, right? And I don't, and that was a typical Mahomes type of a play, right? Where when
they needed a play, they got him. When they needed a play, Kelsey was there. No. And it's and you're going to see the Eagles do something different. But yeah, Mark, I thought they'd take him off his spot. They'd apply a lot of pressure, center pressure, make a move, get 90 degrees off the edge a little bit, and just make him have to put pressure on that ankle. And they didn't do it. They didn't do it. And offensively, Mark, what did you see?
Offensively, Chris, and I know, and I'll let you talk a little bit more about it. And I know you brought this up. Chris Jones absolutely destroyed them. You mentioned they had 2 offensive linemen out. So you got 2 starting offensive linemen out. I believe it was both tackles with the guys that are out. And all of a sudden, and you don't have any running back help back there wherever he's lined up to try to help on him and chip him, do something to him. You just gave him free run. I get he only had a couple of sacks, but Jesus Christ, he must have had 10 quarterback pressures and hits on the quarterback, even though they weren't necessarily sacks. I mean, come on. I mean, that's football 101, Chris, right? That's like
it was unbelievable.
101. I mean, I understand it. And then don't get me wrong, Boyd going out of the game hurt, right? Because that he's the X factor. Now you got 3 instead of 2, and I think that would have changed some of the things that Kansas City was able to do defensively if Boyd was on the field, right? Because they could miss him.
I don't put it necessarily on Burrow much either, because when they gave him time, he found guys, and that tight end he had potential to have a huge day if they could have protected Burrow a little more once Boyd went out. And yeah, I mean, Burrow disappointed a little bit in that he didn't see some of the pressure coming. He didn't put them in better positions. I know there was one play where they were bringing pressure off the edge. You could see it coming. I could see it coming. And what am I? I'm a broken down bum. What the hell do I know? And I could see it coming off the edge, and he had Mixon on his left side. Normally you take him and you shift him to your right side and identify
and now,
that
Chris,
blitzer
that
and
was
have him
the quarterback who would make that shift, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You set your protection. And he didn't do that a few times. But yeah, I mean, how you're not chipping, how you're not helping out, especially in that last series where they got the ball with 2 minutes left. They said, all right, Joe, cool. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's get into that. But in that last sequence, Mark, was where the head coach of that, what did you make of his performance in managing the game? And I'll give you that example, but go ahead.
Give me the example. But so Chris, even throughout the game, Chris, in my opinion, now you got 2 offensive linemen out. Okay. So pass protection, you knew was an issue. But I think Perrion and Mixon, I think they could have ran for 200 yards against that team, Chris. I think you could have, every time you turned and gave the ball to a running back, they were picking up 3 and 4 and 5. They could have rushed for 200 yards, Chris. I don't know why they didn't run the ball and play a little bit more ground and pound to open up play action, and that might have taken some of the pressure off of him. They weren't flying off the edge, Chris, with Jones if you're running the ball, because I'm telling you, you watch Philadelphia's going to rack up yards running the ball against that defense.
I think you're right. And it would have taken a lot of pressure off that offensive line, too. Offensive linemen, when you want to get offensive linemen right, you run the ball because they much rather go forward than backward. And so, I agree. But Mark, to me, what the worst part of this, and this is where the head coach and the management of the game, and we're going to get into Brady, Mahomes, Belichick, and all that in a second now. 47 seconds left. Okay. Cincinnati's got the ball roughly around their own 30, something like that.
Yep.
So they got to go about 40 yards, right? To get 35, roughly 30 to 40 yards to get into field goal range. There's 47 seconds left. They run a play, and I think it was a first down play. They were coming up on second down.
Tight end?
Yeah, I think so. And they were coming up. The clock's moving now. And they're coming up on second down, and boom, the timeout comes with like 45 seconds, something like that. I start screaming at the TV. What the hell are you calling? They had 2 timeouts at that time. What the hell are you calling that timeout for? What is the last thing, Mark, you want to do in that situation? Is do what?
You don't give Mahomes any time to get the ball back, right?
Absolutely.
You didn't learn that from the Buffalo game the year before?
It's ridiculous. And so, to me, with that time left, you run up and you go hurry and you run a play. You don't start using timeouts till you get to about 30 seconds and you're about the 40-yard line over there. Now you can ensure yourself of not giving them, force them to call the timeouts then, if they're going to do that. But now they're not getting the ball back. I got 2 timeouts left. I need to get 30 yards. Here we go. Didn't happen. The coach wet himself. And to me, that was a huge, huge moment in that game where
Chris,
at least you go to overtime.
Chris, if you remember correctly, that coach wet himself in the Super Bowl against the Rams. Remember?
I do. Yeah, I do. And so, we're anointing Cincinnati, but we'll see. I mean, next week we're gonna be on Saturday. Next week we'll have our Super Bowl breakdown, and we can get into that. And we're a little short on time, so we'll go Sunday spread next week and pick that game, Mark. Yep. But we wanted to really talk about this Brady Mahomes thing. I mean, you're hearing it all week. You're hearing about, well, Mahomes is now the next. Mark, go ahead. Go ahead.
Listen. Mahomes, okay, I get it. How about here's the other thing, and I was going to say, I don't know if anyone listens to Colin Cowherd, the Herd, right? I think he's on Fox during the day. He's got a talk show, and he said, we called Jordan the GOAT early in his career. Let's just say it now, that Mahomes is the GOAT. What? He said he's got a stronger arm than Brady. He's more mobile than Brady. He's got... Are you kidding me? Listen, Mahomes has won. I'm going to say it again. One Super Bowl. And he's only got it because the coach from San Francisco wet himself. Yeah. Because they had no bid. They shouldn't have won that game. Okay. Now, he's got one Super Bowl, Chris. If they lose next week, he's 1-2 in Super Bowls. I repeat, 1-2. What the hell has he done to be called the GOAT? Has he ever won a big game in the playoffs outside of Arrowhead?
He's never played a playoff game outside of Arrowhead.
So show some balls.
Other than the Super Bowl.
I'm gonna use some foul language. Show some balls. Put him on the road in a hostile environment and do what Brady did. Lead your team to a win in that type of a situation. In a playoff game, no matter where it was, Brady took them in, and he'll play you. Heads up.
And he did it in Arrowhead, too, Brady.
And he did it in Arrowhead. In his 40s, he did it in Arrowhead and schooled them. And then he got him in the Super Bowl with Tampa, and he schooled him again.
Yeah. Not only has he played, so this guy hasn't played a playoff game outside of Arrowhead.
No.
Okay. So I need to see that. Mark's dead right. I need to see that first. I need to see you go on the road and win a tough playoff game, in Buffalo or somewhere like that. And then you do it. Not only that, Mark, you're right. He's 1-1 on a neutral field. So the only playoff games you took him out at Arrowhead and put him on a neutral field, he's 1-1. If he goes 1-2, he's getting closer to the Bills. He's getting closer to the old Buffalo Bills than he is to the Patriots. The Kansas City Chiefs, there is no team in football, everybody, that's the New England Patriots. Ted Johnson said that this week. Kansas City, is the Ted Johnson's got an axe to grind. Everybody out there in New England, he's got an axe to grind. He hates Belichick, hates him. And that passive-aggressive shit he pulls on I don't even believe they put him on the goddamn air. But that passive-aggressive nonsense with him, he's never going to agree with the Belichick side of things. Dude, you played for him those first years. And, Mark, he says this. You comment on this. He's talking about it was all Brady, Belichick, it was all Brady. You damn hypocrite. You played on the teams. You're insulting every one of your other teammates by saying stuff like that, that it was Brady, not bullshit. He says, but with Mahomes, Mahomes is Brady. He's the next Brady, but Mahomes Reed combination is why it gets it done. So Mahomes Reed combination, that gets it done, but the Brady Belichick one, no, that's no good. I don't understand that, Mark. Explain that.
The first 3 Super Bowls, Chris, we talk about this all the time, you and I. The first 3 Super Bowls was definitely Belichick. I think you'd have to give him a little bit more of the credit for those. The last 3, I'm going to say it was probably 70-30 Brady, but it was still, Chris, to your point, the combination of the two still led you to 6 Super Bowls. Andy Reid is pushing 70. So Andy Reid's not going to have the longevity that Belichick had with Brady. So if to take Johnson at his idiotic word, what happens in 2 years when Andy Reid's in the retirement home eating jelly beans on the porch? Eating jelly beans on the porch of the retirement home. Who's Mahomes gonna pair up with? Who? So Ted Johnson is a fool. He don't know what he's talking about. Like I said, he's got an axe to grind with Belichick. Listen, Chris, I remember sitting in the snow when Indy came in the playoff game, the divisional round game.
Yep.
And Ty Law picks him off 3 times.
Yeah.
Manning 3 times. That wasn't Brady. That was the defense came in and dominated. Corey Dillon ran the ball 34 times for like 180 yards. Brady just turned and handed it off, and they dominated them defensively, and they pounded the ball on offense. So I don't know what the hell Ted Johnson's talking about.
Yeah. Second half of all the Super Bowl runs, Brady. First
absolutely
half,
Brady.
Belichick, Patriot way. And you know what? For all the nonsense, we'll go back to Brady. Hey, Brady's never come out and said that it was all about him. Brady's never had anything but good to say about Belichick. He may be pissed about what happened at the end.
Sure.
But he's never been able to say, hey, I learned everything. I learned how to be a pro from this dude. So, you know what? There's nobody that's the next Brady. Forget it. You want to say Mahomes is going to creep up to maybe Manning, Montana, in that range? Fine. But not Tom Brady. Not Tom Brady.
Well,
listen,
the thing Brady has
He'll
over
never
anybody
touch
else.
him.
You mentioned Manning and Montana. The only thing Brady has over Montana's 4-0 in Super Bowls. Montana's stats in Super Bowls will never be broken. What he did in 4 Super Bowls, that'll never, ever be broken. He's got his passer rating's like 130 in those 4 Super Bowls. It's ridiculous, right? But Brady had the longevity. Yeah. Montana didn't play for like he did. He had the longevity, and he did things that no one's ever going to do again. And I'm going to tell you something. Mahomes ain't going to be no Brady. I don't know about Manning. Mahomes isn't going to be no Joe Montana either. I'm going to tell you that right there. Joe, the real, because I know Joe went crazy last week. The real Joe Cool is Montana, right, Joe?
I'll give you that one. I will give you that one. That's the only one I'll give you.
Right?
Joe's a big San Fran fan. So, yeah, he's not too.
I was a Montana fan. That was the thing. I was a Montana fan. That's the because his name was Joe. That's how I got into football. But, he's got a long way to go to be. I mean, he's going to surpass Dallas, Pittsburgh, San Fran to ever be considered like the Patriots.
Forget the Patriots. They'll never touch the Patriots. Yeah. They'll never touch the Patriots. So, and listen, like we said, we'll get the Sunday spread and our breakdown of the Super Bowl, but it's 1.5 right now. Philly's favored with a 50.5 point over under. Hey, if you're going to bet this week, Philly.
If you're going to bet early, I'd go with Philly. I told you last week, Chris, I think Philly's going to kick the snot out of this team, but I would go with Philly
because they're going to take Kelce away.
They're going to take Kelce away. You bet your ass they are. But we'll talk more about that next week.
Absolutely. So, Weekly Rewind was presented by Special Sauce Podcast. What's your special sauce? SpecialSaucePodcast.com. Hey, when we come back, buckle up as usual. He's already in rare form. Catone's comments is next.
Special Sauce Podcast. You liking the sauce? The sauce is good, man. Some startup, finance, Kraft Custom, with your host, Marcus Arias. Tune in to Special Sauce Podcast, wherever you podcast. What's your special sauce? Time for Catone's Comments!
So I know only those of you that are watching us on YouTube. So if you're listening to our podcast, you can't see. But Chris has on a short sleeve shirt today because, of course, in Arizona it's gonna be 80. I don't know, right?
I've taken a beating enough today.
Sick. What? Listen,
I'm taken enough of a beating, Mark.
I am so sick of listening to these people and the weather. Listen, it's the winter. Okay, we woke up this morning in Rhode Island. It was -9 degrees. Okay, it was -9. The wind chill was 30 below, 40 below zero, whatever it was. But listen,
is that right?
It's the
is
middle
that
of
true?
the winter.
Mark?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, listen, it's my friggin' moment.
I'm sorry.
Quiet.
That just took me.
Quiet.
Oh, go ahead,
Joe. Shut him off now. It's -9 degrees. They're telling you this has been going on since Tuesday. I've been listening to the weatherman TV from Tuesday. We got shelters open if you can't stay warm. Make sure you bring your pets in because they're going to be warm. Don't leave them outside. Is going to leave a pet outside in -9 degree weather and 40 below wind chill factors. If they do, they should be arrested. You gonna actually tell somebody to bring their pet in? Are you kidding me? Really? Oh, make sure you check your battery in your car and turn it up. Listen, we live in Rhode Island. We live in New England. This has been going on our entire lives. You're putting this stuff on TV. You're talking about it for 5 days. Tomorrow's going to be 40 degrees. It's one day. The weather drives me insane. And in the summertime, when it's 100 degrees, they act like it's never been 100 degrees. Drink a lot of get the air conditioner on. Well, listen, it's the weather. That's what it is. You're making an issue over weather? Are you kidding me? Really? Yes, it's -9. Put gloves on, put a coat on and a hat, and deal with it. I've had enough.
Well, so and let me ask you, Mark. Do they still do that over there where if it's going to snow or they scare the hell out of you and everybody goes and buys bread and milk
they
and
do.
whatever that crap is? I didn't know
we
it
haven't
was
had
that
any.
cold.
We really have had no snow this year, Chris. It's actually been warm. It's been in like the 40, 50 degrees every day. But this is the first time it's really been cold. But yeah, they run to the store still like it's like they're not going to be able to get food for like months.
Joe, we're talking about the weather.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, the one thing I will say, by the way, it's beautiful out today over here.
Of course it is.
Go outside and relax a little bit later on, have a nice cigar. Hey, But meanwhile, the one thing I did catch in that, Joe, did you catch this about the animals? Which, Mark, you're 1,000% right. And by the way, it is a crime to do that stuff, cruelty to animals, by the way. And nothing tears at you more when you see those commercials.
That's awful.
Dogs
right?
that need,
Isn't that awful?
So hey, get out there and adopt a dog, adopt an animal, absolutely. But see all the crap he gives Mark, Joe, in the previous Catone's comments, and every so often you hear his dog barking in the background. He's like, "Oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that." How much does he love that animal? He just gave a little glimpse.
Hey, we just gained another 100,000 fans.
Hey,
that's it. The ASP. So, hey, Mark, listen, good stuff as always. The weather. So, yeah, hang in there, everybody. Hang in there. It's coming. The break is coming. You're gonna have a nice, beautiful spring coming up. Although it was just Groundhog Day, wasn't it? Where it's going to be
listen, Chris, -9. You would have had about 5 jackets on. Because you're not used to this.
I can't be in that. I'm not equipped for that. There's no need for weather like that. I can't. My son wants to go to University of Montana. He wants to get into the geology program there. I told him, I said, I don't think you understand. We're going to go visit that place in January, and then we'll make that decision. So Catone's comments was presented by Special Sauce Podcast. What's your special sauce? I'm sorry. Catone's comments is presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. CorsoLawGroup.com. Allow us to be. We don't want the people at Corso Law Group to be upset with this show, do we? Mark?
No.
Joe?
They pay our bills.
Listen, with what little time we have left, we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little B's and C's, and that's coming up right after this. So, Mark, quick, we have a few minutes left in the show, and want to talk about. I mean, hey, look, the Bruins, they're on break right now. We'll talk about them a little more next week.
Quickly, the Bruins. We talked about this last week. I said to you, but what are they going to do against teams that can go in, bang you, grind you? They lost to Carolina, right? And they lost to Tampa. two games in a row against teams that may potentially in a 7-game series, it could get interesting, Chris.
And the Panthers too. They had lost 3 in a row, and then they came back and won the final one, which is good going into against a quality team going into the break. So we'll see what happens. And if they're going to make a move, it's going to take DeBrusque maybe on the table, some picks, things like that, to try to bring a good defenseman in or something like that. So they're on break right now. Let's see if the rest helps that. They're an aging team. And so we'll talk about them next week. But the Celtics, Mark, I wanted to talk a little bit about Mazzulla a little bit. It looks like he's trying to be Belichick a little bit too much. But last night, we asked last week, is there a chink in the armor right now with this team? And they played the Suns last night. Not a team they should lose to ever.
And the Suns didn't have one of their best players. Booker didn't play.
Booker didn't even play. I was shocked that they lost that game and the way they performed. Now you're going to have stinkers every so often, but you're starting to see a little bit more coming back to reality. They had no offensive rebounds. I just want to give you a couple of no offensive rebounds. They were 6 for 23 in 3 points. Okay. They didn't find another way to win. Okay. Tatum didn't set the tone at all. These are and the bench really sucked. Okay. Do they need to make a move? What is happening?
A couple of things. I think you could use another body, right? Because we do know that, the guy that was a Gallinari who we were supposed to have blew his knee out. They could use somebody in that role, Chris. But the other big takeaway I have, and I hate to agree with you, that. But
you hate to agree with me for, you jerk.
You were very astute last week when you started to question Mazzulla, because now is when a coach needs to make an adjustment, because now you're starting to struggle a little bit, and that things like you saw yesterday. Well, how do you now make some adjustments, because it's not coming as easy, right? So now, what are those adjustments? Can Mazzulla do that? I don't know. I know you questioned it last week.
Yeah. Is he going to, how does he manage the rest a little bit? And that's where coaching, to me, everybody says in the NBA, coaching means nothing, but how do you manage your bench? Because if the bench, like last night, the bench was horrible, and maybe they're feeling footsteps because they keep hearing about trade rumors, and there's maybe a lot of pressure and stress on them. I don't know. But how are you going to manage Pritchard and those guys, and inserting them in different combinations, right? To be able, Udoka was pretty good at that. So, different combinations to spark something. When things like this happen, because again, you're going to have games like this, and you're going to have to figure out other ways to score. That's the thing. There was no spacing, because you couldn't have spacing because you didn't have any breaks. Your defense wasn't good enough to get out and run, and they just couldn't find another way. They just kept chucking up threes, and they couldn't find another way to win, and to score points, Mark.
Well, that's the thing, Chris, you brought up. So, but isn't that an in-game adjustment that you have to make, or something you have to do and make, right? I don't know.
Right, because against the Nets, against the Nets, they got the spacing, and they got the spacing based on stops, right?
Wait a minute. Don't bring up the Nets. I'm going to make Joe very happy. You beat the little sisters of the poor and the Nets. Why are you bringing them up?
I'm simply saying, and by the way, astute is a perfect way to describe me. Don't you think, Joe?
Oh, Joe, I'll never hear that. I'll never live that comment down, Joe.
No, but seriously, when they played the Nets, they got good spacing because they got stops. And in all three phases of the shot clock, right, Mark? What does that mean, real quick? All 3 phases of the shot clock, they were getting spacing on the floor. What do they mean when they say the 3 phases of the shot clock?
Chris, but the problem with them is, Chris, they go a little too much. They get obsessed with the one-on-one, right? Whether it's Tatum and as far as spacing, Chris, they just hang out. They sit there in the paint. They sit there and they wait for somebody to go one-on-one. You're right. There's no play call. There's no double back screen. There's nothing happening to free up the ball and to free up a shot, right? It's basically one-on-one. It's one-on-one street ball. And can you score? No, you don't score. Okay. Nobody's there for the rebound because everybody's standing around watching you play, one-on-one, and then they go down the court the next time and they do it again.
Well, listen, we're going to stay tuned and see what happens. See if Missoula can, and if they're going to make any moves. At the wink over there, the owner says, "Hey, we're all in. We're all in. We'll go big. We'll go heavy." And I get these morons that are asking, Mark, is Stevens going to be willing to do it? Dude, the owner's saying that. What do you mean is Stevens going to be willing to do it?
Listen,
Right?
I think the Celtics go all in when they think they can win it. And if you look around the league, Joe, this is the year that you should be able to grab the trophy. So if there's any year where you're gonna try to pull a trigger, it's this year.
So we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. They're going to be coming up on their break soon. The trade deadline for the NBA is what? Is it next week or did it just pass? No, next week, I believe.
No, I believe it's next week, Chris.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. And listen, that's it. Hey, look, great show again, gentlemen. You know, saying goodbye to the legend, Tom Brady. So again, thank you, Tom. Greatest of all, Tom. Guys, Catone's comments, Corso and Catone was presented by, I want to keep talking about Catone's comments in that weather, Mark, you know? But
would you please?
Corso and Catone was presented by Special Sauce Podcast, specialsaucepodcast.com. Listen, get on this week. Watch. All our shows are up for you to watch and listen to. Follow us. Thumbs up. All of that stuff. Come back next week, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have more Patriots talk in what they're going to be doing, coaching lineups, how they're setting themselves up for free agency, and of course our Super Bowl coverage, where we're going to have our Sunday spread and our lock of the week for that. You never want to miss that. And we'll get back to Bruins, Celtics talk, and of course Catone's comics and your heated hotline calls. Make sure you call this week. Have a take. We'll put it on the air. Anything you bring to the table, we'll be ready for. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Find Corso and Catone on iHeartRadio, iTunes, or wherever you podcast. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, Corso and Catone, and catch the chaos at 7 p.m. on Saturday.